The Justice League, DC's premier team of heroes, has been forced to make tough decisions in their attempts to protect the world, and this is to be expected. Some of the best stories involving the League seek to analyse where that line separates drastic action and outright cruelty is drawn. The team is composed of heroes with vastly different worldviews and methodologies, and as a result, many members have committed reprehensible acts, all in the name of justice. So with this in mind, I'm Dan from What Culture, and here are 8 times the Justice League went way too far. Number 8. Heroes in Crisis. 2018's Heroes in Crisis focuses on the events following the death of multiple heroes at the Sanctuary, a rehabilitation centre for heroes dealing with mental health issues. Due to the nature of the crime scene, Booster Gold and Harley Quinn are the primary suspects, and they each go about trying to solve the case despite opposition from various heroes. The case is ultimately solved, and in the process, highlights how demented the Sanctuary really is. The League creates instances where the heroes at the centre relive their trauma in the name of healing. This is a decision that is in poor taste and only serves to further isolate the souls that needed a tender approach to their recoveries. Number 7. Justice League Gods and Monsters. This animated film tells the alternate universe story of a crueler, less accountable Justice League, and highlights its heroes' desire to enforce order by any means necessary. It is a version of the League that reminds audiences of the innate goodness needed to wield the overwhelming power in a responsible manner, but also how that same goodness can be rediscovered through adversity. The alternate versions of Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman are a far cry from their mainstream counterparts, and this is highlighted in the tie-in miniseries that accompanies the movie. Viewers are treated to disturbing moments from the Trinity, such as Batman drinking Harley Quinn's blood after stopping her killing spree, and Superman mercy killing a child Brainiac, whose powers threaten to spiral out of control. The League here are presented as beings who want to save the day, but their path to accomplishing this has a lot of collateral damage along the way. Number 6. A Better World. Justice League. Speaking of animated Justice Leagues taking it too far, the DC Animated Universe's version of an out-of-control League is one of the most memorable arcs to come out of the beloved franchise. Suffering from the loss of the Flash at the hands of President Lex Luthor, a grieving Justice League storms the White House, and this leads to the death of Lex Luthor at the hands of Superman. This more brutal team rebrands itself as the Justice Lords and takes over the world, limiting free speech and self-governance. Then they discover the main Justice League's reality and seek to take over it the same way they did with their own. This story is impactful for a number of different reasons, as it highlights how fallible these heroes really are, and how that makes them a threat to the planet. It also sets the stage for the Cadmus storyline, that sees the main League in a few instances veering very close to the authoritarian sensibilities embodied by the Justice Lords. Number 5. The Throne of Atlantis. The first entry where one Justice League member puts their personal objectives above the team's. Throne of Atlantis explores Aquaman's character as he struggles to navigate the world as both a Leaguer and Atlantean royalty. Following a naval exercise gone wrong, Atlantis, under the rule of Ocean Master, declares a war on the surface world in retaliation. Arthur is forced to place his personal responsibilities over his obligations to the team, and the consequences here are dire, despite the short time frame in which this takes place in. It does not help Arthur's case when it is revealed that the plans used by the Atlantean army to invade the surface world were developed by both him and his brother. Fortunately, Arthur ultimately stands by his team and stops his brother's plans. But the League's victory comes at the expense of their public perception, especially that of Aquaman's. Number 4. The Crime Syndicate of America. The Crime Syndicate exists on Earth 3 in the greater DC multiverse, and is composed of villainous counterparts to the main Leaguers. The Syndicate conquered their world and eventually grew bored with the relative ease of global domination. As a result, they sought out other worlds in the multiverse, and eventually came into conflict with the Justice League of Earth-1, but never fully defeating their heroic counterparts and their allies. The Syndicate is composed of sadistic and completely reprehensible beings who will stop at nothing to conquer and annihilate any world they come across. They also lack the relative coordination and mutual trust of the main Justice League, with their members constantly undermining each other and in some cases killing each other, which is a clear sign of their cruelty and selfishness. Number 3. Flashpoint. One of DC's most personal crisis crossovers, Flashpoint examines Barry Allen's desire to save and be reunited with his deceased mother, but his choice to go back in time to save her changes the world for the worse and places it on a path to annihilation. In an attempt to stop Reverse Flash from killing his mother in the past, Flash unknowingly creates a reality where the Justice League does not exist. In this reality, Captain Cold is Central City's greatest hero, and Aquaman and Wonder Woman have waged a war against each other that has decimated parts of Europe and threatens the rest of the world. Barry's wish to save his mother is far more honourable than some of the other instances on this list, but the consequences are dire and threaten to tear the entire DC universe apart. Fortunately, Barry resets the timeline again, and this time it takes shape in the New 52 series of comics. But the Flashpoint comic is a reminder of how seemingly small changes can be devastating, especially in a universe as turbulent as DC's. Number 2. Injustice. One of my personal favourite comics, with its bold approach to worn-out tropes winning over both new and old fans of the franchise. This exploration of Superman's grief rolling over the world is a seminal example of what happens when absolute power is both compromised and unchecked. After murdering the Joker for having killed Lois Lane, their unborn child, and most of Metropolis, Superman and a few other Leaguers see it fit to take on a more proactive approach in global governance and policing. Naturally, this totalitarian leap in logic on the Man of Steel's part is met with opposition from the world he wishes to protect, and some of his old teammates as well, specifically Batman. Superman's regime betrays the morals and ethos that the League was founded on, and during its devastating run, commits atrocities that push the Leaguers well beyond the moral event horizon in their severely unsound desire to uphold order across the globe. And number 1, Kingdom Come. The visually stunning and weighty tale of judgment and change in the DC universe, Kingdom Come explores a future where the old guard of the DC universe is pitted against a newer, more violent breed of anti-hero. And as always, the fate of the world hangs in the balance. It's a well-constructed commentary on the violent excess that defined the 90s era of comics, and in many ways is a definitive comic of the period as well. After the Joker is murdered by a new hero, Superman and some other Leaguers resign due to being disillusioned by the overwhelming public support that the violent newbie is receiving. This sparks a rise of brutal heroes who dangerously come close to villainy, and after a particularly devastating battle, Superman returns and reforms the League. Unfortunately, the new League's attempts to rehabilitate the newer heroes is unsuccessful, and the League itself is more militant than it had ever once been. The intervention of Lex Luthor's own super team and the United Nations only serves to worsen the situation, pushing the older generation to their limits and resulting in a massive loss of superhuman life. Fortunately, Superman and his counterparts see the error of their ways before more lives are lost, and the world returns to a more idealistic but grounded age. And that's our list. You can find more lists like this on screen now. For now though, I've been Dan, and I'll catch you in the next one.